Hello, this is Eric Akopin, your host of CivilNet, and we're honored to be joined today by Zareh Sinanyan, the High Commissioner of Diaspora for the Republic of Armenia. Thank you, Mr. Sinanyan, for joining us this afternoon.
Thank you for having me.
Obviously, you're from the diaspora and you deal with diasporans, and I'm actually a diasporan myself, just like you. And one of the most common questions that we get is, and I'm sure you've gotten it too, what can I do? I'm a person in Los Angeles, in Buenos Aires, in Moscow, in Beirut, or in Tehran. What's your answer to that? What should people do on the ground immediately right now?
Yes, no matter where our brethren and our brothers and sisters in the diaspora reside, there's a role for them to play. The most practical thing to do, of course, is to contribute to Armenia Fund through հիմնադրամ.org and thereby make it possible for us to take care of those numerous expenses that are associated with this war. Everyone can contribute, different people can contribute at different amounts, but no doubt that folks can spare a cup of tea or a cup of coffee in the morning. But of course, I want our compatriots in the diaspora to realize that the expense is enormous, it's indescribable, and we'd love everyone to feel, to really get in tune with the sacrifice that the armed forces, especially in Armenia, are making. And really, today, Armenia, all of it is a war camp. Everyone's doing their part, and diaspora should as well. And the urgency of the situation is of the utmost importance.
I think I usually do just the questions here, but in rare occasions, I think it's I interject myself, and I will say something that you perhaps don't want to say. Is I will ask people, give till it hurts. In fact, it has to hurt.
It has to hurt.
I want you to give. If you were going to go to Las Vegas this weekend, don't go and give that money. You were going to buy that handbag, don't buy it and give it. This is no longer about giving, it's about sacrifice. So I would ask people to join the High Commissioner's action plan by going further. It's not enough to do the least, we have to do the most. So I appreciate your comments. One thing that a lot of people who are not here don't know is the particular. There's been a very unique atmosphere here over the last 10 days. It's obviously negative in many ways, because nobody, unless you're insane, you don't like war. But there's a level of mobilization, there's a level of activity, and there's a level of people coming together that people who are not here at this point don't understand that. Can you speak of that and maybe explain that a little bit?
I've been actually thinking about that a lot as well. As a conscious human being, I've lived through the first Artsakh war, and then there were several clashes, including the major April 2016 clash. And of course, I was mentally very vested during those war episodes, or the wars. But being here and residing in Armenia is a very different feeling, because you actually know the people who are fighting on the front, and you dread every morning hearing about one of them having fallen. So that feeling is very different. So to build on that, the mobilization and the coming together is unprecedented by any means, and folks who have lived through these wars in Armenia are testifying to that effect. Never in the past would you have folks actually going and fighting and arguing at the mobilization centers to be sent to the front. There are dozens and dozens and thousands of men who are not being allowed to the front for one reason or another, and they're upset because of this reason. It's very remarkable. Also, one more thing that we're witnessing is the volunteers, folks from the diaspora who aren't merely watching from far away, being effective, contributing, engaging in political activity, but actually physically coming to Armenia. Those numbers are very large. And again, they're not heeding someone's call. They're not waiting for an invitation. They're not being called up. Most of them are buying tickets and just flying out on the first flight that they can catch.
Yes, I'm glad you gave a glimpse of what we see here on a daily basis. There are some people, and I've even gotten these emails myself, from some people in their 60s, in fact. I want to volunteer. I want to come there and volunteer. Do you have the capabilities? Are there the structures that can take advantage of people coming here? Obviously, different people have different capabilities. Does that exist, or is that even realistic?
It does exist. Obviously, without getting into too much detail, people have different skill sets, and people can be useful in various ways. I mean, being engaged in war and defending your homeland doesn't necessarily mean shooting and actually engaging in combat activities. It can mean anything from digging a trench to engaging in cyber warfare or defending our cyberspace. So the spectrum of engagement in the war is really broad, and everyone has a role to play.
Okay. That we have seen all over television, especially in Los Angeles, just a mass action of the type that frankly mirrors some of the other social movements in the United States at this point, which is rather interesting crossover. What is your view of that, and is that something that you think is effective? Is that something you encourage? Obviously, we're all talking about nonviolent action, but direct action. What is your take of that?
You know, you and I come from a culture where mass rallies and political activism is a way of life, and it's become, apparently in the United States, it's become more of a way of life since we've left. but having said that, what's remarkable is the world's absolute silence on what's happening. When you watch the videos of Stepanakert being cluster bombed, or you watch 300 millimeter Smerch missiles slamming into downtown Stepanakert and the utter destruction that it's causing, and the silence that's deafening from the Western world, given the fact that we are part of the sort of the Western civilization, we did just undergo a democratic revolution. You would think that there would be some empathy, some kind of action by the West, and I'm talking about the West specifically right now. And there's been none, at least not a tangible one. And going back to what our compatriots can do, given the culture that exists in those countries that they reside in, I'm being a foreign government official. I'm very careful not to sort of call people to do certain things, but they should exercise all the rights that they have. They need to use all the levers that are available, all the tools in the tool set, because this is the most serious threat to our existence since 1915, no doubt about it. And some people may say 1918. 1918 was just the continuation of 1915. We're at that juncture in our history where either we're finally establishing our right to exist in this part of the world, in this tiny corner of our homeland that we've managed to salvage, or we're going to get wiped out. And the wipeout will be in different ways. You all hear that Azerbaijan's demands are nothing short of complete depopulation of Artsakh. Azerbaijan's leader has on numerous occasions laid claim to Yerevan, to Syunik, to Lake Sevan. Their appetite is insatiable. They want it all. And the Turks have shown that throughout history, that their absorption and the expansion at the expense of the Armenian homeland has been a continuous process for the last 1,000 years. So they figure, why stop? Why allow for this barrier to exist between them, the Turkish Republic of Turkey, and their small little province called Azerbaijan? So exercise all your rights. That's within your rights. Do it, and do it in a lawful way, but do it in an impactful way. I think demonstrating in front of Glendale City Hall is, at this point, silly. It's silly. Everyone in Glendale knows what's going on, and either they care or you're never going to change their mind. It has to be something much bigger than that.
Mm-hmm. I'll finish up with this last question. I was really watching Aliyev on Al Jazeera, and he said something that I want you to respond to. And he said something that I want to see if the diaspora can respond to. He said that Armenia overstated its potential. And frankly, given our isolation and the fact that we have no friends, he might actually have been correct on some level. Tell me what's your response to that, and what should be the diaspora's response to that?
Aliyev has expressed his opinion. I'm sure that's an opinion that's shared broadly and widely in both Azerbaijan and Turkey. Now's the time to prove him wrong. Either he's right or he's wrong. I think he's wrong. I think we've underplayed our potential. I think we haven't fully utilized our potential. And we just need to show it to him. And God knows, the men on the front line certainly believe that our potential is not fully realized yet. I think so. And I hope the diaspora engages fully, commits to the point where it hurts. I love the way you phrased it. It has to hurt them, because I'll tell you, Armenia right now is hurting all over. We're hurting bad. But it's not changing our attitude, it's not changing our mind. And neither should it change theirs. It only should change their mind and realize that they need to hurt, and only then they're fully engaged in this struggle.
Well, Mr. Sinanyan, I want to thank you for joining us and giving us your valuable time in these critical junctures in our history. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
This was your host of CivilNet, Eric Kopian, and thank you for joining us with this insightful conversation with Zareh Sinanyan, High Commissioner of the Diaspora. Thank you very much.